The Epstein files scandal explodes. Broken promises, censored documents, and allegations of a cover-up at the highest levels of government. The truth they don't want you to know. Welcome to another video. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Look, I'm going to be really straight with you. What's happening with the Epstein files is absolutely unacceptable. And I'm not saying this as a Democrat or Republican. I'm saying this as someone who believes in transparency and justice. In February, Attorney General Pam Bondi went on Fox News and said that Epstein's client list was sitting on my desk right now. She promised the American people that we would see these files. She created expectations, generated headlines, and then nothing. Absolutely nothing. Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act in November, and Trump signed it on November 19th, giving the Department of Justice 30 days to release all the files. 30 days. That's not a lot of time, but it's also not impossible when you have the entire FBI at your disposal. What happened? First, Bondi distributed Epstein binders to MAGA influencers that didn't contain any client list, just information that was already in the public domain. It was pure political theater, a farce, and the American people deserved more. When the legal deadline of December 19th arrived, what did we see? Heavily redacted documents, many already public from previous court cases. Representative Robert Garcia, who is leading the investigation in the Oversight Committee, was surgical. After careful review, he discovered that 97% of the documents received from the Department of Justice were already public. 97%. This isn't transparency. This is an insult to the intelligence of the American people. It's disrespectful to Epstein's victims who deserve justice. It's a direct violation of the federal law that the president himself signed. Now let's talk about what's really happening behind the scenes. According to a Wall Street Journal report, Bondi informed President Trump in May that his name appeared multiple times in the Epstein files. And look, this doesn't necessarily mean a crime. Many powerful people socialized with Epstein before his convictions were known. But here's the problem. In that same meeting, DOJ officials told Trump that they didn't plan to release more files about Epstein because the material contained child pornography and personal information of the victims. And Trump agreed. Wait a minute. Nobody is asking to release illegal material or expose victims. The law has clear exceptions to protect victims. What we're asking for is everything else. The names of the powerful, the connections, the pattern of misconduct. Congressman Dan Goldman expressed grave concern about what appears to be a coordinated effort to delay and even prevent the release of the Epstein files in their entirety, potentially under direction from the president. And Goldman isn't alone. Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, the original architects of the Transparency Act, are considering filing articles of impeachment against DOJ officials. This is bipartisan, folks. Republicans and Democrats united demanding the truth. Garcia and Representative Jamie Raskin said in a joint statement, Donald Trump and the Department of Justice are now violating federal law while continuing to cover up the facts and evidence about Jeffrey Epstein's international sex trafficking ring. Violating federal law. This isn't political rhetoric, it's legal fact. Let's talk about what we know from the files that were released and from the 95,000 photos that Epstein's estate turned over to Congress. The documents released on Friday include photos of former President Bill Clinton, including one of him in a hot tub with a person whose face was redacted. There are thousands of mentions of powerful names. Clinton appears more than 1,000 times. Trump appears hundreds of times, although mainly in emails and messages about Epstein's obsession with his presidency. Democrats on the Oversight Committee released 68 photos obtained from Epstein's estate, including disturbing images of passages from the novel Lolita written on women's body parts. This isn't conspiracy theory. These are real documents, real photos of a predator documenting his crimes. What else is being hidden? At least 15 newly released files disappeared from the Department of Justice website, including a file showing a photo of President Trump. CBS News downloaded the complete set on Friday and compared it with what was available on Saturday. The files simply vanished. This raises obvious questions. Why? Who ordered the removal? What was in those files that the DOJ decided we shouldn't see? In July, Trump called demands for releasing the files a Democratic hoax and attacked Republicans who supported the legislation. Then, when the pressure became unbearable, he backed down and signed the law. But signing isn't the same as complying. And Pam Bondi isn't complying. I'll end with this. Jeffrey Epstein sexually exploited more than 250 underage girls. He had an extensive network, and these victims have long deserved accountability. More than 5 hours after the documents were released, some Epstein survivors felt frustrated as they struggled to navigate the DOJ's Epstein Public Library for information about their own abuse. Imagine that you were a victim of one of the worst sexual predators in modern history, and the very government that should be seeking justice for you is making it difficult to access the truth. Representative Adelita Grijalva said, "Today I'm thinking of survivors like Liz Stein and Jess Michaels, whose persistence and courage are the only reason Congress acted to force the DOJ to release the Epstein files. They deserve justice, accountability, and closure." Emails from Epstein's estate released by the Oversight Committee indicated that the convicted sex offender believed Trump knew about his abuses. Again, this needs to be investigated, not with conspiracy theories, but with facts, evidence, and proper legal process. What I'm saying is simple. Release the files. All of them. Protect the victims. Yes. Redact child pornography. Absolutely. But everything else? The American people have a right to know. Garcia and Raskin said they are examining all legal options in the face of this violation of federal law, and that the survivors of this nightmare deserve justice. Co-conspirators must be held accountable, and the American people deserve complete transparency from the DOJ. Pam Bondi had months to prepare. White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles said Bondi completely missed the mark by not understanding how much Trump's base cared about releasing the files. And now we have a crisis of confidence in the Department of Justice itself. Justice cannot be selective, transparency cannot be conditional, and the law cannot be optional for the powerful. If you made it this far, thank you for caring about the truth. This case is about more than politics. It's about justice for hundreds of victims and accountability for everyone involved in Epstein's network. Leave a like if you believe in total transparency, subscribe to the channel to follow developments in this case, and comment. Do you think the DOJ is complying with the law or protecting the powerful? Let's keep this conversation alive, because only public pressure will force the complete release of these files. The truth cannot be buried forever.